Okay, welcome to Emerald Hills. We just did a quick live stream to wrap up the Herschel 400. Or at least what we can view right now. We explained how we try to now work out which objects we might be able to see in this season. Now we're getting ready to start another live stream, which is going to focus on picking back up on the Caldwell List of deep space objects. First thing I want to do, though, is make sure that we're coming through okay. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to see if we're live. And let's see. Here we go. This should be the one that we're live on. Yeah, okay. Just want to make sure that our audio is there. There's Mike. Mike, good to have you here. Sorry for the jolting change to a different live stream, but we wanted to kind of move away from the Herschel 400 list and head into the Caldwell list. So that's the reason why for that jolting change. Okay, I think we're ready to go over and look at our, first of all, I guess I should say that we're using a Rowe-Ackermann Schmidt Astrograph, and it operates out of this Pier-Tech Tele-Station 2 Observatory. Sits on that little adjustable height pier, also made by Pier-Tech. And at the base of that pier is this little box that has all these different distribution panels that, for instance, takes the data from this ZWO ASI2600MC Pro one-shot color camera that's fastened to that Octopi-Astro camera interface you might see there on the front of that corrector plate. And it sends it to where I am inside of a little building, about 200 feet away, which is our main prayer center and atrium here at Emerald Hills. So this observatory that you see, we're operating at Emerald Hills on the outskirts of Louisville, and we're happy to have you here. Here is the scope that's a live view. You can see it aimed up there to the eastern sky. The scope cam that you're seeing is looking from behind the scope toward the North Star. So in fact, if you look very carefully, sometimes you can catch a quick glimpse of the North Star right over the top of the center of the scope. So the scope is pointing up to the east. It's a nice sky tonight. It's completely dark. The moon won't rise till later, so it's completely black sky. So in order to see where we're pointing, just really quickly, we're looking at Caldwell 45, I believe. So let's try to show that on our chart here. Yeah, Caldwell 45. You see, it's a nice little spiral galaxy, and for context, it's off to the side of Virgo. So it would be C, that would be east-southeast, wouldn't it? Up over the horizon about 35 degrees. And this building that you see here, let me get this little telescope control out of the way. This little building that you see here, that's the building I'm sitting in. And the observatory is right here. So the scope is looking at that object. Now let's go see a live view of what the camera is seeing, and that's it. Boy, it doesn't look like much there, does it? Let's put in our name, which is, again, Caldwell 45. Caldwell 45. It does have an NGC name. I wonder if that's what I should be calling it. NGC 5248. Let's just call it Caldwell 45. It's the same object. And let's set our exposures on something like 20 seconds and our gain on maybe 100. I've mentioned before that our camera likes a gain of 100. I want to make sure that we're focused on Mike. It's good to see you there. It looks like there are 3 folks that have made it back to this live stream. I think there were several in the other live stream, and I kind of jolted off of that, and so I kind of jostled them loose. Let's see. I'm going to do a. It's not a lot of stars in this frame, but it might be enough to do a plate solve. We'll just do a plate solve only before we start live stacking. I want to make sure we're pointed in the right direction here as we get started. Stu, good to have you on board from New Zealand. Did you get, were you on the other live stream? We were just wrapping up about the Herschel 400s too. And if so, I bet we kind of jostled you off of that other live stream. It had to be disconcerting. Okay, so we're trying to see. Let's do image annotation. Okay, so it's true. NGC 524048 is Caldwell 45, so it should be right there in the middle. As you can see, with just pure one-shot color, there's very little visible. So we're going to live stack this, and what that means, it takes one 20-second image at a time, and that was the last image we were just stacking from the other stream, which was showing a Herschel 400 object setting into the treetops. But what we do with this live stacking, as you guys know, oh, good, Stu, I'm glad we didn't jolt you off the other live stream, because it was a little bit disconcerting. What we do, you guys, if you're watching this recording and this is the first time you've watched the channel in a while, what we try to do here is we stack one exposure on the top of another, and that allows us to find the average of the light sources that are in the frame. And with each frame, there goes a beautiful little airplane that we can feature in the left side of our picture. We'll just leave that in there because it's so photogenic. A little airplane photobombing our screen. This is just two exposures. Now we're going to have the third exposure here. So with just three exposures, we're already starting to see this object here in the middle. You can see the frame is brightening up. We're going to make it just a little bit more contrasty with the dark sky, and going to kind of try to bring in a little bit more light source. Now we use, for our kind of guide, we use the Stephen James O'Meara book. It's called simply The Caldwell Objects. And Steve O'Meara uses a 4-inch telescope to do his observing. And the advantage of that is we can kind of, read what he writes about seeing through a 4-inch scope, and that lets us compare to what we can see through an 11-inch scope. Okay, so you're seeing a live view there. That's the exact view that our telescope is seeing. So in a way, this is like team observing is what this is. Astronomy is now team sport. Looking forward to the JUICE mission launching tonight. Jupiter's icy moon. I saw that, Stu. I saw a little YouTube video on that, so that'll be fun. Okay, so Caldwell 45. Let's just, while that's forming up in the screen, this is a mixed spiral. And William Herschel discovered this, I guess, on April 15th, 1784. How did he do all these? He says it's very bright, considerably large, small, bright nucleus. And he talks about, Steve O'Meara then writes about this. He kind of places you in Boötes, which is the constellation where we are, a deep sky wasteland for small telescope users, sweeping its 900 square degrees with anything smaller than a 10-inch is visually unrewarding. So just to get an idea of what he's saying, here's Boötes, and as you can see, there's very little going on here. M3 is not a part of this constellation. It's technically in a different constellation, so it's no wonder that he's saying that this is a wasteland, because there is not a lot to see. Caldwell 45 is kind of the exception. And even it takes a little bit of aperture. So then he talks about what different people say about this object. 74 million light years away, estimated, and 123,000 light years across. So what we'll do now is we'll, I think I'm going to narrow this down a little bit so we can see here the next object. And we're going to do our observation of it. And we'll just pull our little observation panel over here and then go to our live view. We're going to say it looks as if this galaxy has been, gravitationally has been involved in a collision with something nearby. The spiral arms look to be flailing out into the night sky. They're just kind of out of place, aren't they? Let's see if O'Meara says anything like that. Two of the outer arms appear stubby while two arms wrap halfway around the galaxy. This has been viewed at Mauna Kea. He says that it implies a large-scale gravitational collapse is occurring. It's interesting, isn't it? He talks about what a challenge it is to find it. And fortunately, we're blessed with a nice go-to mount that helps us track these objects down. He says it's challenging with a 4-inch 13th magnitude star nearby. You can see that star right up here. That's the 13th magnitude one. Amateurs with larger telescopes have had more success citing various degrees of detail. He talks about an 8-inch and talks about the way you can see a dark patch south of the nucleus. And we're seeing that right here. Here's that dark patch. Gives it a black eye appearance. Well, it would give us that if we were looking at it with that at the bottom of the frame. Beautiful structure on a 20-inch. Photometry. There's a lot of variable star. There are a lot of variable stars in it. Okay, so we're going to say it's not immediately obvious how that happened. So this is about 6 minutes on this object. A collapse. Yeah, I know. That's odd, isn't it, Mike? Hot spots along the spiral arms. Large populations of superstar clusters have formed. He says it's like a reciprocating lawn sprinkler. You know, maybe it's not a collapse. Maybe it's just that this is not a normal spiral, in my opinion. It's normal for a spiral to have more tightly wound arms, but this one looks like one of those propellers. Maybe it's just the propeller formation, which we've seen before. Well, that's probably the best we're going to see of this. Let's see if we can pump up our mids anymore. There are some stars that it looks like are forming in these arms. Okay, we'll snap this picture. It's a bright core, isn't it? Well, that's 8 minutes worth. Let's head on to the next object, and that would be in Boaties, Caldwell 45. So we'll go to our default next target, and we'll say that it's, oh, that was Caldwell 45, sorry. How can that be? Oh, it's because we didn't complete this observation. She's seen before some nice star formation happening in the outer rings. There goes another airplane. So the next one is Caldwell 35, sorry. Caldwell 35, and let's slew to it. Caldwell 35. It's also known as NGC 4889. Caldwell 35. NGC 4889. A galaxy. Is that Coma Berenices? Is that what that is? Berenices? Let's go find this Caldwell 35. So let's back off so we can see where we are. Yeah, that's Coma Berenices. I hope I spelled that right. Berenices. Coma Berenices is not an incredibly easy to find constellation, is it? If you can find the Little Dipper and the North Star here and trace the handle toward the cup and kind of imagine something flying off the handle, no pun intended, we would end up here in Coma Berenices. Another way to look at it is it's immediately out, or it is out some ways from the curved handle of the Big Dipper, which is a little easier to find. So we're away from the bottom of the handle, kind of like that satellite dish effect that we've looked at before. And we're right out here. Here's the Coma Berenices cluster. But in this case, we're here inside this simple little equilateral, or whatever you call this kind of triangle. It wouldn't be equilateral, would it? Has a longer hypotenuse. And on one of those legs, my goodness, is this, right? Caldwell 35. Oh, here. NGC 4889. Where exactly is it? NGC, my goodness, look at that cluster. 4889. 48. How many galaxies is that? NGC 4889. I'm still not seeing the NGC 4889. Oh, look, it's also known as Coma B. So it's that star happens to be, I guess, over the top of Caldwell 35, which is also NGC 4889. How in the world will we ever see this, gang? All right, so let's, did we already slew there, I guess? I guess we did, didn't we? Yeah, we did. So let's do our that display histogram stretch, and let's stretch this big histogram and do a color matching. And let's stop for a minute and appreciate how much is happening in this particular part of the sky. Oh my goodness, look at that. Look at all the galaxies. The Coma Cluster, Abell 1656, is a large cluster of galaxies that contains over 1,000 galaxies. Now what I'd like to do is turn this back off and do that plate solve only, so we make sure that we're carefully tuned. And then let's go look at this again and see where we are in the night sky. We're almost due east now. Here's the compass point for due east, and directly overhead, due east, would be the this incredible cluster of galaxies. And you can see and appreciate just some of them there. Let's go back to the live view now. Turn that deep sky image annotation back on. Now that we've tuned up our live view, 4889 is right there in the middle. Look how many other galaxies are here. I wonder if some of these are going to be in our view, like NGC 4559. We'll worry about all of them in a second, won't we? Right now, let's just focus on the first thing at hand, which is, boy, without deep sky image annotation, how would you be sure you're looking at the right galaxy, gang? 4089 is that one right there in the middle. So let's take this back off again so we can see. So this is the galaxy we're observing. Now that's 157%. So this is a pretty small piece of real estate in the sky. Caldwell 35. Boy, I like the Caldwell List. Look at the way he did this book, starting with this part of the series. He put the Caldwell numbers in the bar at the top of the book. So that's Caldwell 42, see? And this enables us to turn to the object very quickly. I love it much more than that index way we had to do the Herschel list. So here we are in 35, and sure enough, with 35, he shows us this part of the night sky. And you can see it is indeed crowded with galaxies, with 4889 in the middle, and his picture looks just like ours. Among the silent desires of many amateur astronomers is the ability to peer ever deeper into the universe. We have, it seems, an innate longing to reach for the beginning, or at least to better understand it. Going up that river was like traveling back to the earliest beginnings of the world, said the fictitious explorer Marlowe in Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. Visual observers go up that river by seeking out fainter and fainter objects, objects that will let them look farther back in time. Theirs is a visual journey spurred on by that same almost primitive inner voice that must have inspired explorers of old to conquer uncharted territories. But unlike those earth-bound voyagers, today's amateur astronomers can travel phenomenal distances with the help of their telescopes. Anyone who has seen all the Messier objects has witnessed some remarkably distant galaxies. The farthest Messier objects, those in the Virgo cluster of galaxies, lie 55 million light years away. Many of the objects in the Caldwell catalog take us several steps beyond the Virgo cluster, but none takes us farther than NGC 4889, Caldwell 35 in Coma Berenices. By spying this tiny and dim object, we thrust our reach 300 million light years into intergalactic space. 300 million light years. That's not a bad journey. The feeble light we detect from the galaxy's pale hulk embarked on its silent journey when the first primitive seed plants sprouted from Earth's bleak and solemn soil, and the earliest amphibians crawled out of the water to drag their bellies across our planet's virgin shores. NGC 4889 belongs to the Coma cluster of galaxies and is the easternmost of the two galaxies that dominate the cluster's center. Well, that's just beautiful, isn't it? Small, faint, out of round, almost lost in the glare of HD 112887, which would be this. It's a seventh magnitude star, just 9 arc minutes to the northwest. The harder to see NGC 4874 is a swollen spot of haze, merely 6.5 south of that same star. At 72 power and with time and much patience, it appears elongated northwest to southeast. Let's bump up the mids a little more. Let's cheat a little bit. Now we're at 215%, starting to see the mosaic patterns. But obviously the reason that this object makes a Caldwell List, in part, is because it's so far away. Let's see what you guys are saying. Stu says it is an E4 supergiant elliptical galaxy discovered in 1785 by William Herschel, the brightest galaxy within the northern Coma cluster, largest and most massive galaxy, easily visible to Earth. 4889 has played an important role in both amateur and professional astronomy. Even in the zoomed-in Hubble photo has dozens of galaxies in it. O'Meara has a lot of time on his hands to wax poetic. Yeah, 308 million, but who's counting at that point, right? Over 300 million light years. Let's put that in perspective. 1/3 of a billion years ago, this light appears to have embarked on its journey. 1/3 of a billion years ago. Not much more than an oblong lens-shaped fuzzy patch. But what makes this galaxy unique is that it's the farthest away, hyphenated, farthest away target in the entire Caldwell List. An E4 supergiant, whatever that means, elliptical galaxy, 308 million light years distant. Stu. Spheroid. Not a flat spiral. 3-dimensional profile. 15 trillion solar masses. Might have been the result of a galactic merger. Fascinating. Is this, I don't know, is this the farthest away object we've ever observed, gang? I don't know. Nah, we've seen globular clusters that are farther away, haven't we? Might be one of the farther galaxies. I can't remember. But it's certainly cool. All right, let's get on our way here. next target. Let's go to the Herring Galaxy, which is Caldwell 32. And I don't have an NGC number for it. Caldwell 32. Ray, good to have you aboard. As Ray, quantum space. If you zoom in on your histogram and balance, just one click on your color. You know, we did that. Quantum space, I believe, we zoomed in. I mean, we balanced the color twice, but we'll try that again next time. Thank you, quantum space. Okay, so are we settled, do you think? Is this... So this is in Caldwell 32. Oh yeah, see, we've observed this before. Maybe we just didn't observe it under the name of the Caldwell name. You know what I mean? NGC 4631, I bet we observed it under that name. Most likely observed this already under its NGC number, NGC 4631 has a companion NGC 4627. I've always found this object unique because it does indeed look like a shark with one of those herrings that floats along with it. So there you go, right off the bat. You can see it clearly. Even without stacked images, you can already make it out after just one single 20-second frame, which is amazing. So there's the stretch on the display histogram. There's the auto stretch on the big histogram. There's the color balance on the big histogram at the bottom, the live stacking histogram. And now we're going to bump up the mids a little and zoom in. Look at this object down here. Is that thing called the hockey stick, if I remember right? Wow, right from the beginning. It's beautiful, isn't it? The Crowbar Galaxy, NGC, it doesn't have a Caldwell number, so we won't be going to it tonight per se, but we have observed it before, nonetheless. So the Whale Galaxy, Caldwell 32. To the naked eye, Canis Venatici looks anemic. Let's back off for a bit. Maybe we can see the anemia. Here's Canis Venatici. So you see why I would look anemic. There's just not a lot going on until you zoom in. And I bet that's what Omir is going to say. Its brightest star, Cor Caroli, shines at 3rd magnitude, and its other stars are fainter than 4th. But the constellation hosts a dynasty of telescopic splendors. The colorful globular cluster M3, the dramatic Whirlpool Galaxy M51, the delicate Sunflower Galaxy M63, and the mysterious black hole-bearing Seyfert Galaxy M106, and there's more. In the obscure southwestern quadrant of the constellation lurks one of the most distinguished and yet often overlooked deep sky objects of its class, the Edge-on galaxy NGC 4631. We haven't even gotten to this one yet. This is NGC 4559. Right? Or no? C32 is 4631, yeah. 4631, shining at a magnitude 9.2, spanning nearly a fourth of a degree. It is in fact among the brightest and largest edge-on galaxies in the night sky, and a vivid reminder that Messier's catalog is not an exhaustive list of celestial greats. At a distance of 22 million light years, (4631), also known as a whale galaxy or called a 33, barred spiral galaxy in the constellation Canis Venatici. This galaxy's wedge shape gives it an appearance of a herring or a whale. Azray says, yes, it's a hockey stick. Stu, so many supernovae have exploded in the center of NGC 4631 that they are blowing gas out of the plane of the galaxy. The superwind can be seen in X-rays and in the spectral line emission. Thanks for doing the stream tonight. We have only clouds. So sorry about that, Ray. Stu, oh, not again. Sounds like you've been clouded in for months. Mike, looks warped. I agree. It does look warped. Maybe it collided with that companion. Not for months, just off and on a few weeks. Okay. If we could see the tilt or face on, it would probably be a late type barred spiral with very clumpy, loosely wound arms. Wow, it's really beautiful now at 4 minutes, isn't it? Looks like a rotting corpse of a galaxy. Warped. By the way, Mike, you'll be encouraged because Steve O'Meara is copying off you. He says it looks warped and withered. Seems to slump lifelessly on either side of its bulging core. Battle scars. For an interacting galaxy undergoing intensive star formation, highly energetic core complex may have been triggered into activity by tidal influence of its two near neighbors, NGC 4627, a dwarf elliptical just to the north, and NGC 4656, a very irregular spiral about 30 arc minutes to the southeast. The hockey stick. Oh, I see. So the hockey stick is 4656 and 4657 combined. Can we see the hockey stick in this photo? We can. So this is typically described with 2 NGC numbers, but we won't spend a lot of time on it tonight because we're on the Caldwell list. Well, that's certainly a beautiful object. We've been on it 6 minutes. Let's go ahead and snap a picture of this. And let's remember that this would be great to come back to. Great minds think alike. I love it, Mike. And let's head to the next object, but let's remember this is worth coming back to. Now let's go to C36. C36. NGC 4559. Well, we'd certainly moved out of that area. Now we're closer to the koi fish galaxy. We moved back to Coma Berenices from Canis Venatici. There's the koi fish galaxy, and here is Caldwell 36, NGC 4559. It's not really given much attention in Stellarium, is it? Why is that? What can you tell us about this, Stu? It's NGC 4559, Caldwell 36. Tiffany, you're so nice to encourage. Tiffany says, thank you for taking us along on this journey through the heavens, and you're even saying that you're wonderful. Very kind. Oh, on Scope Cam. Thank you so much. Thanks, Azrae. Tiffany and the Shih Tzu. I see the Shih Tzu in your little thumbnail image there, Tiffany. Awesome. Well, let's read about Caldwell 36, what O'Meara says about this. He says it's a mixed spiral, and he says it's 32 million light years. See, Stu, if that agrees with you. More than a dozen galaxies. More than a dozen galaxies shine at 10th magnitude, or brighter. Among these are the famous Black Eye Galaxy, M64, and the constellation's flagship spiral, Caldwell 38, which is 4565. But this is 4559. So let's do our display histogram and also do our color balance. That is a pretty galaxy, isn't it? An intermediate spiral with a weak inner ring structure in the constellation Coma Berenices. Distance estimates about 28 million light years. So evidently Hubble developed the galaxy classification scheme. So first it divides into ellipticals, which have no spirals, unbarred spirals, and then barred spirals. So ellipticals are E galaxies, unbarred spirals are S, and barred spirals are SB, spiral barred. Then he did this tuning fork thing, and the first kind of spiral was zero lenticular. Boy, it's getting pretty deep. Lowercase letters A through D. So you got SA through SBA. This is an SAB, parentheses RS, CD. This means that in shape, NGC 4559 lies somewhere between a barred spiral and an unbarred one, whose inner arms form a ring that surrounds the needle-sharp nucleus, RS, while farther out the arms fly freely open, CD. Man, it's beautiful, isn't it? This is with just 3 minutes of exposure. But how beautiful can you get? How beautiful is that? Now, we're using the pre-processing hot pixel removal only built-in subtract dark. But look, barely, if you look very closely, I think I can see the remains of a hot pixel right there. So this is still a new feature for me to use the SharpCap built-in hot pixel removal. I wonder on our next stack, let's use our dark frame that we shot and see if it subtracts that pixel more effectively. We should see that pixel in every frame if we keep using this hot pixel removal feature that is now built into SharpCat. This is 4 minutes, and look how we're starting to see some really wide material here. And we'll put a new title. I got out of the habit of doing those. This is Caldwell 36 NGC 4559. NGC 4559, a galaxy, and also in Coma Berenices. Thanks. A tweener. Right, Dean. Good to have you here, Dean. So let's say this beautiful spiral is an intermediate weak inner ring, but gorgeous just the same. 28 to 32 million light years distant. Has 17 discrete X-ray sources. "11 arc minutes long, at least. Star-like core. Hyperfine dark lane." Yeah, get this dark lane here. Dark lanes readily apparent. Caldwell 36, beautiful, isn't it? That's 6 minutes. Dean, you're very kind. We're just so glad to have you. All right, let's pop over to the next one because we're trying to finish, if we can, what we can see in the Caldwell list tonight. Let's go to Caldwell 38. And is it this? Or is that where we just were? No, we were on 36. So this is 4565. So we didn't. There we go. I was going to say our chart didn't. Wow, there's the Needle Galaxy. Very close. Oh, maybe the Needle Galaxy is Caldwell 38. Well, that's just beautiful. Okay, let's back up and get the context. We're in Coma Berenices, looking, see, east-southeast, and we're at about 60 degrees up, roughly. 64 to be exact. Caldwell 38. So let's read about Caldwell 38 some. Again, reading from the Steve O'Meara book. I wonder if this is the Outer Limits Galaxy. Is it? Anybody know? Doesn't say so. Boy, it looks like it. More than any other deep sky object, the sight of the Edge-on Spiral Galaxy, NGC 4565, jars my imagination, causing me to wonder about the unseen vistas hiding beyond its dusty confines. Compare the photograph of NGC 4565 with any of a face-on photograph, and it makes NGC 4565 look even more mysterious than IC 342. Why? Perhaps it's because order can be seen in long exposure photographs of face-on spiral galaxies. Multitudes of stars cling like nettles to well-structured arms. Dust accumulates rather neatly in channeled lanes. Seen from above, a spiral galaxy is a recognizable visual vortex. A snapshot of celestial water pouring down a drain. I would have never thought of it like that. A snapshot of celestial water pouring down a drain. Now I lost my place. Similar spiral structure abounds on Earth in the unfolding of a flower, in swirling autumn leaves, or the spinning arms of a hurricane. Edge-on systems, in contrast, lack that immediacy of recognition. Most of their treasures are hidden behind turgid veils of dust. From our limited perspective, it appears that we see more darkness than light, lending these galaxies a supernatural quality that attracts our curiosity. Boy, this is just a really cool galaxy. And it's so big compared to what we've been looking at in the Herschel 400, isn't it? Look how big that is! Oh my goodness. You know, the Outer Limits galaxy looks like this, except it's tilted the other way in our telescope's view. So the Outer Limits galaxy always looks like it's doing a wheelie, whereas this one looks like it's dive bombing. Look at the bright star-like core in the middle of that bulge. One might think that 19th century astronomers would have seen these curious nebulae as their contemporaries saw the jungles of Africa from passing ships. So hopeless and so dark, in the words of Joseph Conrad's Marlowe. But in 1855, William Parsons, the third Earl of Rosse, described NGC 4565 as a beautiful object after seeing it through a 72-inch reflector. 72-inch reflector. He drew this equatorial dust lane. John Herschel, this is William's son, saw it as a thin, flat ring of enormous dimensions, seen very obliquely. Estimated distance of 32 million light years. 150,000 light years wide. Like a dive-bombing Outer Limits galaxy. What did he say? $200 billion suns, 32 million light years away. 32 million light years away. 150,000 light years across. This is 36, so the title is correct now. I'm sorry, it's 38. Thanks for asking, Stu. 4565. Now the title should be correct. 200 billion suns. The Hubble has identified 200 globular clusters. An extended halo of invisible dark matter enveloping the disk. ¼ degree long needle of light, about 2 degrees due east of 17 Comi Berenices, a fine binocular double star. Beautiful. I'm just scanning through everything he writes. He writes a lot about the Caldwell List objects. Nice dark equatorial dust lane. Serves as a nice racing stripe. Caldwell 38, 6 minutes. We are using flats subtraction. So we've seen this before, huh, Stu? Huh. All right, well then, I tell you what, let's do. Let's move on. And let's change now, while we're thinking about it, to a real dark frame. Oh, rats, it's not letting me use it while. Let's go to C21. C21, which is NGC 4449. C21. Still can't change. Did we already slew? Hmm. 44, 49. Yes, we already slew. So that means we can go back here and say, okay, now it'll let me. It still won't let me browse. Okay, that's bothersome. I'll have to fix that because the live stack will already start again before we get a chance to change that to be able to subtract darks. 4565 has at least 2 satellite galaxies, one of which is interacting with it, has a population of roughly 240 globular clusters, more than the Milky Way. Caldwell 21, irregular Magellanic type galaxy in the constellation Canis Venatici, being located 13 million light years away. Beautiful, Stu, thank you. I'm going to try to catch this in a second, if it'll let us. I bet it's not handing us over the controls. So for context, we're in almost the Big Dipper here. Again, the satellite dish effect of the Big Dipper. Oh yeah, beautiful. Still not giving us control back. That's gorgeous. Okay, now we have a dark on there. And hopefully that will get rid of that little blue pixel, which didn't quite get eliminated by Robin's new feature in SharpCap. Which is automatic hot pixel removal. This is a beautiful object, even if it's a little bit small. Here's another one over here. Oh my, look how that moved when we took in the fourth exposure. Here's a little galaxy here. I wonder what. (4460). Nice little satellite trail photobombing us. Boy, these are moving a lot. You think this is because of our new dark that we added? This is an irregular thing, isn't it? Interactions with nearby galaxies are thought to have influenced star formation. In 2012, two small galaxies have been discovered interacting with it. Boy, it just won't settle down in the color matching. Every new exposure unsettles the color matching a little bit more. Wonder if this is what, you know, some galaxies, they call them fireball, I think it's called, or no, fireworks galaxies, because they're generating so many new stars. It looks like this one is, and I think sometimes those happen on tidally influenced galaxies. This is still not settling down yet. Look how beautiful that is. That's a 100%. Look how much action there is in that. Ray says it's moving around for you as well. You mean this galaxy, Ray? This particular galaxy does this? I'm going to manually click down the greens 2 clicks and then move this over here. C21. Oh, the histogram. The box galaxy. I can see why it might be called that. The box galaxy. What would this be, Stu? 10 million light years away? Oh, Stu said 13. 240 globs. In 2012, two small galaxies were discovered interacting. Okay, that's 5 minutes. Wow, look at how beautiful this is. What a mess of colors. Wonder if all the galaxy formation is what is throwing it off. Look how bright. It's really a cool sight, isn't it? The more you stack, the more colors will come out. Just beautiful. Okay, that's 6 minutes. Let's go ahead and head out, but man, I wish we could stay longer. This is beautiful. C26, Caldwell 26. The silver needle. Kind of fun to teach you. Okay, we'll catch those colors on the next one, Azrae. C26. So much easier to find in this book with that giant bar at the top. NGC 4244. Let me change the C26. C26 NGC 4224, is it? Boy, we don't have this. GC 4224. Seen exactly edge on with no central bulge of any consequence. But it does have a tiny central condensation. One obvious dark lane running through the galaxy's center. What a color. A mess of colors. Boy, it does look like a needle, doesn't it? There's no bulge there at all. Edge on loose spiral Good, Ray. That's good. Gonna check him out at a later date. No central bulge. Scope cam, thanks. No central bulge. 14 million light years away. Try to darken that sky a little bit. Make that stand out a little more. Too much, isn't it? This one is impossibly thin. Yeah, it is cool, isn't it, Stu? Stu says, that's so cool. It is so thin. Imagine just coming in, you know, and scooting across that in a spaceship. Has a unique texture. He says you might as well look at NGC 4214 nearby. 4214. Not even on our Stellarium planetarium software. Anybody see 4214? Must not be in our field of view. Well, that's 4 minutes and 40 seconds. I tell you what, it's beautiful. Let's head out. And let's head to Caldwell 40. Caroline's cluster. Canis Major. It's just 13 degrees above the horizon. Oh, we still got it. Oh, I bet it's here. I think we've seen this before too. C58. did we say C40? Which did we go to? No, I can't remember. Did we slew to C40? Yeah, C40, huh? So that is not Caroline's cluster. Get my stuff together here. C40 is NGC 3626, yeah. GC 3626. And that is an unbarred lenticular . Yeah. I wonder if we went to Caroline's cluster instead. Yes, I think we went to, I think I must have hit Caroline's cluster at the end of the day. Just C58. Sorry, false alarm gang. My bad. I must have hit again on the best column. It's Caroline's cluster. An open cluster in Canis Major. Okay, so anyway, you can tell we're getting close to the trees on this. I'm glad we went here now because this won't be around much longer. Beautiful cluster, even though it was seriously close to the trees. No wonder they named it after Caroline. Oh, she discovered it. Stu. NGC 2360. You know, I don't think that's in the name over there, but we won't add it now. We got enough to do. All right, let's go to the next, and that's, now let's go back to 40. This is supposed to be at 48 degrees. She found it and named it after herself, probably because her big brother was being stingy with the credit. That's right, Stu. I'd say you've got her number. This is at 70 degrees, almost straight up. Wow. So it's one of those ellipticals. going back where you did C40 a while ago, Stu. I can't find it. Maybe we never... Caroline's notes were overlooked until her brother William included the cluster in his 1786 catalog of 1,000 clusters nebulae and acknowledged her as the discoverer. Well, that was big of him. Now we're in Leo's tail. See Leo, the lion? There's the big backward question mark deal. And we're in the tail, and that's south-southeast, directly overhead. C40. Lenticular. What a mess, the color balance. Why is that sometimes? That the color balance is so radically different. Sometimes it just seems like a completely different animal. It makes me doubt myself because the automatic color balance doesn't work at all, and so we have to manually... Oh my goodness, look at this. We just moved. Why did we just move? We're at 70 degrees. It shouldn't have moved, should it? But it obviously just did. Different area of the sky, different light, different thickness of atmosphere. I guess so. An unbarred lenticular, constellation Leo, discovered by William Herschel. Not a lot there. Why did it do this? Well, let's clear this and start over. And let's go look at the SkyCam. Man, just straight up, huh? Look at that. What? Oh, we've lost our tracking for some reason. Look at that. What a mess. Wonder why the tracking would have shut off. Let's look at the scope cam. You think it must have gone too far back on itself? Almost looks like that's what's happened, huh? So let's try slewing to it again and see what happens. Oh, we lost complete connection with the scope. Let's try to make it go back to 0 position, celestial north. That appears to be working, huh? This is when it really helps, doesn't it, to have the scope cam? Because otherwise we'd be at a real loss as to what in the world is happening. You know, in warmer weather, it is fun to sit beside the scope, so you're kind of able to see it firsthand, right? Okay, so now with us here, let's try to enable tracking again. And it did. Now let's try to slew again back to C40. Yeah, this time it went the other direction. So that must have been the problem. For some reason, it went the wrong direction, and well, that doesn't look good either, does it? No, I think that's working. Okay. As soon as this clears, I'm going to go back to screen again. You might have to get off your chair. Love watching robots work. All right, now where were we? I wonder if we should pause this whole live stacking thing for a minute and plate solve again. Since we did the meridian flip. Let's do. Well, this is a good time to say, if you are watching this live stream for the first time and you haven't subscribed, and if you like content like this and would like to, we invite you to subscribe. We would love to have you subscribe. And if you'd like to be notified when we're going to do a live stream, you can do that in one of two ways. You can hit the bell, which will notify you on YouTube, or you can go to emeraldhillskies.com, and at the landing page there, you can choose to sign up for an email notification. And we try to send the email, when we can, we try to send it the night before, about 24 hours notice. And no matter what, if you like this kind of content and you would want to, only if you'd want to, it doesn't cost you anything, you're welcome to hit the thumbs up. And what that does is it's an easy way to increase the live stream's presence in other people's searches. So again, we just invite you to do that if you'd like, but you have to decide if you want to. Okay, so we're going to try to manually color balance this again. Down on the blues, down on the greens, up on the reds. And why isn't this able to do this? Wonder why this is not able to do this sometimes. Where is this object? Pray tell. This C40 has been a lot of trouble, hasn't it? Best way to get pushed into the algorithm is to schedule a start time for the stream, then delay the start. Yeah, that's what I think I had trouble with, is I hadn't cleared the live stack. I think that was the problem. There we go. Now I think we're back in business. All caused by a meridian stall. This is a very small object. That's 100%. C40. It's a curious object. It's only marginally visible. One might wonder why Patrick Caldwell Moore selected it over the wealth of other galaxies in Leo. In fact, NGC 3626 is the only Leo galaxy in his catalog. Of course, the Caldwell catalog is not intended to be a list of 109 visually stunning objects, but a selection of Moore's favorite deep sky objects, whether they're telescopically dynamic, astrophysically intriguing, or visually challenging. The question then is how NGC 3626 fits into the picture. It's only 3 arc minutes wide, and it shines only with 11th magnitude. So he goes on and questions. He says it's a classic lenticular galaxy whisking away from us at 1,473 kilometers per second. Stu says we get recommended to a lot more people while the delay is happening. Huh. We'll have to remember that, Stu. Steve O'Meara wonders why he picked it still. He says it's part of a nice trio. It's easy to locate. He says, why in the world pick this one? He says it is interesting that there's a massive counter-rotating disk of molecular gas in it, but that wasn't reported till 1998. Disturbing morphology. The counter-rotating gas might have been acquired gradually from the detritus of previous interactions. A counter-rotating structure. Well, for me, it's a little bit of a letdown. It looks more like the Herschel 400s that we've just spent the last 24 sessions looking at. Looks like an eyeball, doesn't it? Okay, we're going to say we're kind of like Steve O'Meara. We wonder why Sir Patrick chose this one in his curated list. Looks like an eyeball, a tiny one. This is C40. Oh, I don't have the text correct down there, do I? I got out of the habit of doing that. So this would be called a lenticular. A Leo lenticular. Mike says he thinks it's cute. All right, I'll tell you what, there is one more Caldwell List object we can do tonight. So let's head to it. and that is C48. C48 is NGC 2775, and it is a galaxy in, is CNC Cancer? Yes, it's a spiral galaxy in Cancer. We've had the entire night with no moon. That's because it hasn't risen yet. Once it rises, it is going to be at something like 50%, 61%. And it'll rise around 3:30 a.m. So this is a brilliant night, moonless night. C48. So this is in Cancer. Here's Cancer. So the backwards question mark, Leo, kind of is staring down at this on the ground. Steve O'Meara says it's considerably large. Has a misty or curdled texture and almost appears featureless, but faint details do shine through. Most prominent are the galaxy's bright nucleus and its central lens and its spiral arms, which look as thin and frail as old sewing thread. There it is in the middle. Down with the reds. Up with the darks. The blacks. Over with the mids. In with the screen. And another eyeball. Boy, we sure saw a lot of these in the Herschel list, didn't we? Get those blues matched up. There we go. Tiny knots like filigree adorn the arms, which become frayed at the ends. Okay, we don't see those yet. Notice that the arms cannot be traced as individual structures, but rather as separate segments. Belongs to something called the Antlia Hydra cloud of galaxies. Stu writes, although star formation is taking place in the dusty outer ring, NGC 2775 does not display any current star burst activity, and the galactic nucleus is virtually free of any star formation whatsoever. I mean, I'm sure Stu would point out that he's finding this research on the web. A satellite galaxy appears to have orbited NGC 2775 multiple times, losing mass as it does so and creating faint shell-like structures. That's interesting. An oval haze. Largely elusive even at higher powers. feeble light. Observers with telescopes as large as 20 inches have failed to see more structure. There was a supernova in 1993. The guest star shined at 14th magnitude in red light. Once again, it's interesting that Patrick Moore would have found this something he wanted to put in his list of 109 objects, huh? But he did. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Now we're starting to see that outer halo, aren't we? That's probably why he found it to be interesting, right? Has an outer halo has seen interaction with two different companion galaxies which helped form the faint outer shell-like structures. Vukoda Next Generation, we do remember you. Thanks for coming back. Welcome back. All right, with this object then, we wrap up all of the Caldwell objects that we can observe tonight. So let's see, we'll run this again, see? And that means no more Caldwell objects. So let's go up here and let's ignore the horizon and check the list again. So it looks like we have 39 objects that have not been observed. And look how none of them fit in tonight's best. We have a couple that rise around midnight. So they're just 2 or 3 degrees up in the sky at midnight. 3 more that rise by 3:30 a.m. But all of these will look better at another season. So for instance here, let's look at the yearly altitude. And what does this tell us? Rats, that this object just doesn't get very high in the sky, does it? Nor, oh my goodness, look at that one. The entire year long, this object only gets up to 5 degrees above the horizon. Then we've got several objects that don't really show up well in the spring at all. So I hope you can see how helpful it is to have this planner. It's the only thing that's going to let us be able to try to make any sense out of finding the rest of these 39 objects. Some of them will only be available later in the year. Wow. Does it look like to you that some of these are not even going to be visible to the north? Could that be? The They're not even going to be visible to us ever? Mike, thanks for being with us. Stu says, I can come to his backyard if you want to see the southern hemisphere. That's what it looks like. It looks like some of these are not going to be visible except for Stu. Stu, we're going to mail you a Jiffy pack of a binocular set and have you hold your phone up to the back of your binoculars for us. Let me do some research on these, but this is not looking good from our latitude at all. Once you get past Caldwell 81 and up. So I'll do some research on these. In any event, what we'll do next is we'll go to, in the next session, we'll go to like hidden treasures. We'll pick on those for a while. Then we'll go to secret deep. We'll pick on those for a while. When we've exhausted all the possibilities from Caldwell List, hidden treasures, and secret deep, then we'll go to this, remember, new list, which we just got, called Cosmic Challenge. And this is by Phil Harrington. And I have to manually type these in. I Hate Clavin Lim says there are a lot of objects in the southern hemisphere. Bummer. Huh. Boy, Stu. I still think we should mail you some binoculars. By the way, tonight I am thrilled to tell you that right after sundown, we were able to catch Mercury in the western sky, just right above the horizon. So to see that, all you have to do is go to the part of the website that shows you shorts, as they call them. Has nothing to do with innerwear. Has to do with how long the video is. This is a 60-second video, but we use our smartphone to capture Mercury there live for you. So you go over to Shorts and watch that latest short. We just did it tonight before the Herschel 400 live stream. And if you stare very closely in the middle of the smartphone screen, you'll see Mercury with us. Again, this is a team sport. Thank you for being here. Thanks to God for making all these cool objects. Thank you for the times that you spend with us in these late night hours. And thanks for all the people who pitch in and help with research. And I think we'll be back later in the week. There's going to be another clear night, and we'll be back on one of those. The very next clear night, we'll probably come back and, like I say, do hidden treasures or secret deep. God bless you guys. Thanks to everybody who's here tonight. Mercury, yes, was one of the last planets that you caught. I Hate Clavin Lim. Stu, thank you in the mid-afternoon. We appreciate you every time. For all of you guys who are with us, and for those of you watching the recording, God bless you guys, and thanks. We'll catch you next time. See you soon. Good night from Emerald Hill Skies.